Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Inside the News. Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Inside the News. I'm German Abel sitting in again today, and we have two special guests in studio again. Uh, and then we're joined by another two, I believe, on Zoom. Oh, one. Yes. But before we jump into the discussion here on Inside the News, we have to acknowledge our partners who make this program possible. And then when we return, we'll hear from our guests, our esteemed guests who are in studio. So we'll be right back.
Enjoy the convenience of getting all your documents in one place. At the TDC Copy and Print Center on 4th Street in Basse-Terre, we do just that. We offer document formatting, graphic design, and copy and print services. Our team of professionals truly understand all your needs, whether it be administrative, professional, academic, or personal. You bring it, we deliver it with quality every time. Visit the TDC Copy and Print Center today in the TDC Mall on 4th Street in Basse-Terre or call 465-2511. Your copy and print specialists are waiting to serve you.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And welcome back to Inside the News. And as I said before the break, we have two guests, two special people in the studios this morning. I see one is smartly dressed in uniform and a nice individual across from him. So I'll jump and let them introduce themselves this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, German. My name is, for the listening audience, good morning. I just want to say that my name is Timothy Martin from the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services. And with me today, I'll let the lady across the room introduce herself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Anne Hiley-Gurgle, and I'm very happy to be here this morning.
Thank you. And I think we are joined by another guest on Zoom. Good morning. I don't know if you can hear me. Good morning.
Good morning. I am Shalisa Martin Clark, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs and Social Empowerment in the island of Nevis.
And again, my name is German Abel, so I'm just introducing myself again. So, we're speaking about this morning, rather, we're going to be speaking about an initiative, a donation, or something like that, surrounding I'm trying to get the correct phrasing for it.
Dispatch.
Yes. So I'll let you go, Mr. Martin.
Well, rather, maybe the permanent secretary, Miss Martin, maybe you could shed some light on that initially.
Yes, so just to provide some context, I would say over the past years, the Nevis branch of the St. Kitts Nevis Red Cross has increased its community preparedness response through a series of CPR and first aid training within the community. In May of 2019, the branch launched the emergency medical response training for fire, police, and medical services on the island of Nevis. This initiative was launched in recognition of the key role these agencies play in terms of emergency response on the island. The initiative also seeks to address the gap between the emergencies and the response time, recognizing that all of these agencies at times have to coordinate and collaborate in terms of responding to emergencies. Apart from the training, some of these agencies were lucky to receive some emergency medical equipment such as AEDs, oxygen, first aid kits, and these were deployed in some of the fire station and some of the centers throughout the island of Nevis. These equipment were donated by the Narberth Ambulance, which is located in Pennsylvania, USA, and by the Homeowners Foundation of Four Seasons. I would say, stemming from all of these initial training and everything, we would have recognized that there's some shortcomings, and the Ministry of Health would have invited the team to come in and do an assessment of our emergency medical responses and the hospital capabilities in terms of responding to these emergencies. So sometime in 2019, Dr. Ben Usash and Captain Chief Chris Flanagan were invited to do some preliminary assessment of the emergency medical response and our hospital capabilities. They would have provided us with an initial report, and this is where all of this emergency dispatch project stem from, basically.
Okay.
So we are now trying to act on some of the recommendations that they would have made, and one being a centralized area where all emergencies can be funneled to, and then basically dispatch the appropriate resources that would be needed. So in a nutshell, that is basically how all of this came about.
Okay.
And you want to say anything?
Just anything?
No, that's perfect. Perfect, Miss Martin Clark. That outlines the project. I mean, it has been an ongoing project for 4 years, and we have a large team involved, both on the ground and in the US. But yeah, thank you for that explanation.
A little later on, I could share some of what has been happening behind the scene as it relates to this particular project, what we have been doing so far and have done so far.
Okay, Mr. Martin, I want to ask you, for somebody who is technically in the first responders category, how is something like this beneficial to your agency, for example?
Well, an initiative like this is very beneficial for we as a fire department. Now, in terms of receiving, responding to any emergency, it starts with the dispatcher. That individual has to reach out to the dispatching system in order to provide them with information as to how they can get help. And when that individual calls the dispatcher, the dispatching unit need to be efficient in how they retrieve the information from that individual, and also in the dissemination of that information to the relevant personnel, which would be us, the fire department. So the dispatching system is very critical and important to the whole chain of events.
So in the whole program of this, take a step back first. Tell us, what's the system like now, and what's it going to be like when you guys actually have this whole system implemented?
All right, so maybe I could speak about what the system is like now, and then someone else could speak about what it would be after. So the dispatching system as it is now is basically someone calls whether 911, that goes to the police station, and then they would take the information, etc., and pass it on. However, the system, it needs to be upgraded. It needs to be upgraded, and with what the homeowners association along with other partners are doing presently, that upgrade is more than necessary and beneficial to us.
How long is this whole process going to take?
Well, the process, we've been doing research and training and, looking at particular needs unique to Nevis for a period of 4 years now. So, as you know, the dispatch system is very close to installation, and that's what we're looking at now. We're looking at the system to be up and running in the very near future.
Okay. Let's take a step back from your perspective, from the homeowner's perspective. How come you guys decided to join this venture, come up with this initiative to assist the first responders?
Well, Nevis has always been my paradise, my dream place. I wish I could live here full time, but I can't. So I do actually. I'm a homeowner in Nevis, and when we became homeowners, I want to get more involved with the island, and the Homeowners Association has a charity foundation. And it was approached by the Red Cross to help with some initial training of something called emergency response, which is a little bit more than first aid and CPR. It actually is closer to EMT training. And we were asked to go in and do some initial training with fire and police and hospital. And then we discovered with the Red Cross there was a breakdown in communication with fire, police and hospital as far as dispatching emergency calls go. So that's 4 years ago. We were approached to do training, and it's developed into this project.
What were some of the challenges that you would have found, and as part of the whole training, that you would have seen that needs serious work?
Well, right up front, we discovered that training was necessary. It's necessary all over the world, everywhere. Training should be up to date. It should be regular. Skills need to be relearned and actually practiced. So we realized that there was a break in communication with hospital, police, and fire as far as where the call was and what was needed resource-wise on that call. The delay was, very, very noticeable. The time difference between the ambulance arriving on time with the right personnel to give the right treatment.
So at the end of all of this, what sort of training, for example? I know this is going to be a broad-based training in terms of paramedics and relaying the information and all of that. But for the ordinary person who's listening right now, who is not au fait with how paramedics and the hospital and first responders, because we've seen it all on TV. Right, but we don't completely understand. So for those people who don't understand, give them a little insight in terms of what sort of training specifically these people would be receiving.
Well, we are looking at the training. We are working actively with what we call boots on the ground, fire, police and hospital, to make this system unique to Nevis. So the training is going to be very specific to Nevis. It is we would prefer initially to have someone with some emergency service experience, but this can be trained. We're looking for individuals who are highly motivated and who have excellent interpersonal skills, but also people who do have some operational background would be helpful. But the training is very thorough. So in the US, for example, you don't have to be fire trained or police trained to train to be a dispatcher, but you do have to undergo the training. The training is very detailed and very, very specific to the job.
And they would be certified at the end of the training?
Yes, they'd be certified dispatchers, absolutely. And they would be required to do ongoing training to make sure their skills were always very on the money, on the ball.
Okay, so P.S. How is this? How are you seeing this benefiting the overall health sector in St. Kitts and Nevis? Well, more specifically, Nevis at this point upon completion of this training.
That could be a question for Dr. Hobson or Miss Martin Clark, if they would like to.
Miss Martin Clark.
Yes, could you repeat that?
Well, I was saying, at the end of this training, how do you see this benefiting the overall health sector on Nevis when you have the dispatchers who are going to be competently trained at the end of this?
Sorry, could you repeat? Somebody keep calling in all the time on the phone.
Oh, okay. So I was saying, so at the end of now that they're going to be undergoing the training, you have the whole first responders system going to be in place and all of that. How is this expected to benefit the health sector on Nevis itself?
Well, I think in terms of the staff, the competence of the staff would definitely be increased. The persons who work on the ambulance, the EMTs, would have the required skills, knowledge in terms of how to approach whatever emergency they encounter on their way on route to the community. So I think overall it would make our emergency response system a little bit more efficient and effective in the way that we provide the services that are required for persons who would have basically called in for that emergency care.
Okay, I want to ask a question, but we have to acknowledge our partners, and then when we come back, I'll throw this question out in terms of how do we gauge. So would they be able to pinpoint exactly the first responders when they turn up on scene, what sort of treatment may be necessary, what sort of treatment should be rendered when they arrive on scene in terms of those who are dealing with the ambulance, the fire service, the police, that sort of thing. But we'll continue that discussion on the other side of the break. So do stay with us.
Make the world go.
It's TDC for me, TDC for we. Neighbor, partner, your family. The best is yet to come, believe me. Moving forward, moving with. Hey, TDC serve the nation with the best customer experience. TDC, you are the one for we. Happy anniversary. Together we succeed, building on strong community, pressing on forward to one destiny. One love, one family. Together we succeed. Let the whole world see. Yes, this is 50.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WINFM. I'm Jeremy Abel sitting in. So yes, I was asking before we took the break. In terms of, I guess the definition would be diagnosis, right? So we turn up on scene. Let's say someone, we got a call about, let's say someone is complaining about chest pains, right? What sort of mechanism this whole train is going to fit in in terms of people when those first responders, when they turn up on scene, they can actually pinpoint, okay, this is what we suspect is happening. Is that going to be part of the training for first responders?
Part of the training. It is part of the training. The training that we have been doing over the last 4 years look at specifically things like any emergency responder that turns up, fire, police or hospital, will know how to handle things like chest pain. Especially they have basic training, but also when the ambulance does show up, they will have protocols to deal with chest pain. But yes, they will be trained in what to give, how to diagnose very quickly, and how to deal with that.
Okay, as a former paramedic, what has your experience been like while you're on Nevis? I don't know if you had the experience and you've been working a little with in terms of the training. What sort of experience have you gained or gleaned from being on Nevis in terms of first responders?
I think that Nevis has some amazing responders. I've found that I do this training a lot in the US, and I found that everyone that I trained on Nevis learned very quickly, very eager to learn, very motivated to learn. And that, since the training, I've also heard from some of our emergency responders that they have been using the skills and saving lives. So my experience has been very rewarding. I'm honoured. It's an honour to be here. Honoured to be on Nevis to train with very smart, intelligent, eager to learn students. Absolutely.
So, Mr. Martin, is this exercise going to be for the entire fire service or just those based on Nevis? And would you recommend your colleagues on Kids to also fall in line with this training?
Well, the training is geared towards the improving the system over in Nevis. Would we? Of course, we would want all of our officers to be trained, but would they be able to get that initially? Probably not. However, it opened doors for the other areas of the fire services to receive training like these. So it's an initial step, a stepping stone, so to speak.
Okay, so let us. So we've gotten the training aspect of it out. Setup, establishment, getting the form infrastructure in place, right? Where is that, and how long do you guys expect this to take in terms of actually completing the entire rollout of the infrastructure and everything?
I don't know if Mr. Martin Clark would like to take that question.
Activities that have been going on behind the scene. Well, first of all, we have identified a space for the equipment. So that space is the CCTV building. So we would have identified that as the base for the dispatch system. The system is going to be purchased by the Four Seasons Homeowners Foundation. They would have purchased some of the equipment already. We're still waiting, I think, for the radios. The radios have to be programmed, so that's going to take a while. We initially was hoping for an October rollout, full rollout, but we might have some delays based on the situation with the radios. The system, when it's fully operational, would have components such as, the radio aspect of it, data and GPS services. And I think having it at the CCTV building, both the dispatch system and the camera system that is at the CCTV building will sort of complement each other. We would have also negotiated to have a third tower site that's at Whitehall set up to ensure that we have island-wide coverage. Because some parts of the island, when you travel, the signal tend to drop off. So during the assessment that was done in 2019, we were advised to try and bring that particular tower on board. And I would like to say thanks to the tower owner who would have basically worked with us. So we already have that agreement in place to have use of that tower site. Also, we would have engaged the two major service providers here on the island, that's Digicel and Flow, and both are on board in terms of the tower service and the emergency short code number, respectively. So we have an emergency short code number already in place. It's already attached to a 469 number. We will be publicizing that number shortly as we get closer to the rollout, along with, starting the public education leading up towards the initial rollout. As you would have heard earlier, we have had a number of training exercises for first responders, fire, police, the medical, even CERTs, the community emergency response teams through the disaster management department. They are also included in those training. It is our intention for the system to be integrated into the federal system. So we'll have that interconnection. We would have had, in all of the meetings that we had, the federal government was involved in a sense, because we have to go through, at the time it was the Mr. Brandy, who was the commissioner of police. So the federal ministry responsible for security was involved in this project. And the new commissioner, Mr. James Sutton, he's also aware of the project. Having been over here on Nevis, he was very supportive of it as well. So the intention is that whatever we have here, that it would be able to integrate into whatever the federal government initially have planned. On Wednesday next week, we also planning to have an introductory meeting discussion as it relates to how does an emergency dispatch system work? What are some of the characteristics of the dispatchers that we wish to bring on board? So there are a number of things that are going on behind the scene as it relates to rolling out this project. So as I would have mentioned, we would have earmarked October to be the actual rollout of the project, but we would have some delay based on the situation with the radios. So I can't give a definite time now as to when we expect to have the system fully rolled out. But in the meantime, we're trying to do all the preparatory work in anticipation for that rollout.
Well, you mentioned something there that I was going to ask you about in terms of interruption and involvement of the service providers, because, we don't cross interconnection in terms of the radios might interfere with some signal or vice versa. In terms of feedback, I know you spoke a little bit about that, but in that the service providers are coming on board. But in terms of feedback of how the system is going to work, maintenance of the system, what sort of communications would have been discussed with the service providers in that area?
Well, we're basically piggybacking off of the system that is already in place through national security. So that's why I would have indicated that we basically brought on one tower site. All the other tower sites are already in use, and I think that's from the federal level. So those are being taken care of. There are maintenance contracts in place for those tower sites and everything, as that is what we were told. So it's just the new tower site that we are bringing on stream, which is the Whitehall tower site, that we basically have to look at in terms of the maintenance. And Digicel, I'm told, is the one who normally deals with the tower site. So we're already in communication with them for all of those maintenance aspects.
Okay, it sounds like you guys have everything down packed in terms of your approach to the infrastructure, the approach to having all of it in place generally for a smooth rollout. And I understand the reason behind the delay.
One thing I need to add though, and this is very important. So in the discussion with the service providers, it's been agreed that anyone calling that emergency number, that would be a free call. They won't be charged for calling that number. So that is something to note as well.
So if you're somebody like me who don't ever have service on his phone, you can literally pick
If
up
you
the phone
have
and
an
call.
emergency and you call that short code, that 3-digit number, it would be a free call.
Remind us again of the code.
No, I didn't share the code as yet,
Oh, okay.
but we have it in place already.
Okay. All right. What I wanted to ask is how's this going to be playing into, for example, we're in the hurricane season right now, and I know it's not in place. In terms of disaster preparedness, how is all of this going to fit into that? Because I know somebody's going to definitely ask that question. Whether it be eventual hurricane season, or an earthquake, or a flooding, or something of that nature. How's all of this going to fit into that?
Well, what I can say is that one of the shortcoming we had in terms of emergency response is that persons were complaining that some of the times they call 911 and the call is being placed all over the place, and that delay can affect the outcome, the patient outcome. Also, some persons would have complained that when they do call the hospital straight, some of the times it takes a while for the phones to be answered. So this is like a second layer, I would say. If you call the hospital for whatever reason and, the call doesn't go through as quickly as it should, you still have this other layer in terms of emergency, and vice versa. If you call the short code, the emergency number, and is not picked up right away, because this person would have to multitask, I'm sure, because they might have a lot of calls coming in during a disaster. You can also call the hospital as well, because hospital is also patched into this emergency short code number. So I just think that it would be just another layer in terms of getting a response for whatever services that you would require at that time.
Okay, so is it a case then that this short code should be priority over calling direct? Because let's say, for example, we have Mr. Martin in studio here. If I have an issue with fire, rather than necessarily going directly to fire, I should call this, and then they connect me with the fire service, and I then relay my information. So I think, is that how this is going to work? Because if you're asking me, I think that should be how it should operate. So you guys can correct me if that is how it is going to be.
Yes, and you can share a little bit more on that.
Yes, the idea is that all emergency calls will go through this 3-digit free code number. The idea behind that is that even though you may think it is a fire emergency, you call, you might need a water company, electric company, police help. It isn't always as straightforward an emergency as you would think, and you need a trained professional to help you, to walk you through that.
And resources that you would need, yeah.
Yeah, so I do think that it's really important that the dispatcher will be trained and very skilled at knowing which resources to allocate to your emergency, and it isn't always just fire. And we want to encourage fire and police and disaster management and hospital to work together on as many calls as possible.
Yeah, so just to piggyback off of Anne's statement, now, when a call is made, let's say for fire, but then you have other agencies that need to respond as well. So rather than fire now, taking the time out to go and call these various agencies, that dispatcher can do that all at once. So you would have a coordinated effort of resources coming to your aid all at once.
It's very much a controlled response. a very controlled, quick response.
I like the sound of that. But then my other question would be, piggybacking on the group's statement is, in terms of training with hospital staff, for example, because the PS would have said one of the issues that was had is that, you're calling the hospital directly, you're not getting anybody on the phone, right? So in terms of communication from the first responder, Mr. Abel has an issue, he calls the first responding hotline, and the first responding hotline communicating with the hospital. What sort of mechanism, or is all of this customer service training part of the training that's going to be undertaken in terms of first responding?
Absolutely, absolutely. The hospital is actively involved in the training. They will get a special signal. They will have radios, and they will know it's an emergency call coming through, and they will pick up that call immediately. It'll be allocated. The radio will be allocated to certain members, certain staff in the hospital, but the hospital will be able to hear everything that's going on. It could be that a caller calls in, and the dispatcher would like a dispatcher to talk to a doctor, maybe delivering a baby, or a doctor could walk them through while the ambulance is going to the patient. So yeah, the hospital is actively involved in helping design and write the protocols, but in the training they'll have a radio system, and a protocol in place for each call.
I think what you guys are explaining right now is creating a level of confidence in the minds of the people and reinforcing the trust in terms of what is expected and what should be happening, right? And as part of this entire training, you guys are just reinforcing that we're moving the health sector. I know it's basically on Nevis at this point, but you're lifting the standard of the health sector on Nevis at this point in time by having this training, by having this first responders dispatch system. Because from what you guys are saying, you're training the medical personnel or those at the hospitals, those EMT, fire service officers, the police, in terms of dealing with the health and well-being of people with whom they have to interact with. And I know we've done numerous reports, myself and my colleague next to me, in terms of some of the shortcomings within the health sector. And I think this is a timely approach in terms of actually reinforcing the trust and getting everybody to come back and show support. And I'm sure the health officials in St. Kitts would probably jump and come to the Four Seasons Foundation for the assistance and training as well in terms of first responders on St. Kitts. But I have to ask, in terms of the first responders, can you tell us a bit about what exactly it is that these first responders have to look for when they're communicating with callers who would be reporting whether it be an ailment, an accident, a natural disaster? What are some of the points that they have to take from the callers that are going to be communicating with?
They have to know, what is the emergency, where is the emergency, and they have to be able to respond with the right resources to the emergency. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. So basically, they have to be able to listen to the caller and get an exact location of the call, and also an exact idea of what they need for that call. And they will keep the caller on the line while they dispatch what it is they need: fire, police, ambulance.
Is it, and this, I think this is, okay, just before you come in, Timothy, is it a case where, for example, and this is me looking at all these first responder series and movies and all of this, is it a case that, let's say, Mr. Abel calls the hotline 911 and he's in danger or something like that, and his phone cut? Is it a case that you guys will be triangulating his signal? This is me again looking at all these movies and series to pinpoint his exact location in terms of to go. So he may need assistance, but his phone battery died or something of that nature. Is that going to be part of your training and the rollout of the whole mechanism of the system?
So that is exactly what I wanted to touch. Remember, the PS, Miss Martin Clark, she indicated that We're engaged in a third cell tower in the Whitehall region. Now, currently, well, basically the Nevis division was working off of two main cell towers. And what we found with initial 911 calls, etc., those calls used to bounce over into other countries. So you find you're in Nevis and a call would go to St. Kitts, a call would go to, say, Martin, Anguilla, and even further places. So with this third cell tower in place, you would be able to keep those calls localized to Nevis, uh, given the proper framework is in place. And then too, you would be able to triangulate as to where the call was originated. So as you said, if a cell phone died, for example, then that, given the going back into the system, they will be able to see, where the call was originated from.
Okay, and that's a good point because again, we have a lot of people who might be the elderly and those who are disabled and they need assistance. And I think that's a good initiative to have at this point in time. I mean, we all have cell phones. We all have, well, I don't know if people still have landlines because I've not seen
They
that in
do.
generations.
They do.
It's really?
They do.
I mean, I know organizations have them, but, I've not used one in ages, so I'm not sure. But we have those people who are the elderly, the shut in, and
Right.
those. So,
If I could just add something to that, the questions that the dispatcher will ask will be very direct, and they'll be skilled and trained to ask the right questions within the first 5 seconds of that call, so they can can really find where that patient is, where that emergency is.
so then, because this is another question that popped into my mind while you were speaking, is this training open to everyone on Nevis who wants to come, or you guys would have your screening of who specifically? I know you alluded to some of it earlier.
I'm going to hand that over to Miss Martin Clark.
Yes, so right now we would have sent out an open invitation, but at the end of the day, we're actually going to have some screening because dispatchers should have a certain characteristics, and it's very important that we select the right individuals for that job. Dispatchers should be that calm voice in chaos and a lifeline for those in distress. So we have to have the right persons in place to be able to be the lifeline for those persons in crisis. So yes, right now, as I said, the training or the introductory session we're going to have on Wednesday coming, we would have invited some persons in who we think can be ideal candidates. But at the end of the day, we will have a screening process.
So my colleague was asking a question a little while ago, and I think you touched on a bit of it, Ms. Martin Clark. In terms of dealing with frantic callers, you have to have that cool voice. Customer service training and all of that. How is all this going to be fitting into to selecting the candidates one and actually during the entire training, getting people to understand frantic callers, because this is unlike the developed world. This is the Caribbean. We have to be realistic. You call somebody, you might not get through immediately within 5 seconds, and then you're hysterical. John Doe just fell on the ground and he's shaking, and what should I do? You have all of that, and then some people get frustrated, right? So is this going to be part of the whole training of the first responders?
Yeah, yes, definitely the dispatcher training, yes. Anne could add a little bit more on this, but I think it's important that we emphasize that dispatchers, they have to have empathy. They have to be able to think clearly, maintain that composure, even though it seems as if things are burning down around the individual who's calling in. Even in the most challenging situations, they have to remain calm. They have to be the one who have the level head and be able to calm that individual to be able to provide the assistance that they need. I think in that training on introductory session we're going to have on Wednesday, and her team would share a little bit more as it relates to, you know, what are some of the, you know, the basic skill set or, you know, capacity that the dispatchers should have.
And trust me, the training, there will be a lot of scenarios. There will be a lot of practicing, and we will be doing a lot of very close to real life calls. So they do get tested, not only, you know, in dispatch, but we will be looking at their personalities and how they react to each other, and definitely to the scenarios. We repeat skills, and we give them every scenario you could imagine to deal with. And we will be getting out information from Nevis, from, I don't know if Dr. Hobson's on the line, from the hospital, from... We have been doing research for 4 years now, looking at the types of emergencies that Nevis deals with, and types of emergencies fire and police deal with. We are talking to all the heads of departments. So really, this system is going to be unique to Nevis and Nevis's needs as far as emergencies go. So I don't know if Dr. Hobson, she could maybe add to that. I don't know if she's on the call.
No,
she's not. Oh, okay. Yeah, she's been very, very helpful with helping us do research into, you know, how many calls, and looking at tourist season, and, you know, the types of calls that come in. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It isn't Hollywood, you know, it isn't TV, it isn't, you know, CSI. This is Nevis, and it's real life. So we have to get this right.
Yes, you know, some of us look at these shows because we like them.
And it's not real, trust me, not even in America. It's not real.
You know, we try to translate some of it from what we see on TV into, you know, right? And I think that's what we need to get people to understand. But before we continue, I have to acknowledge our partners who make the program possible. One last time before we break for the news, and then when we return, we'll continue with the discussion here on Win FM.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
People make the world go round.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love, now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
people make the world go
And we are back with Inside the News. We're winding down the first hour of the program here, and we're discussing the first responder system that's going to be rolled out on Nevis that will lift the standard of first response on the island. You know, the Four Seasons Foundation has donated and is playing an integral part in this entire operation. And from what they've been saying this morning, it's definitely going to lift the standard on the island. You know, first responders will have comprehensive training, all across, whether it be law enforcement, the hospital, whomever it is, once they are the first responders once they're part of the first responders apparatus, they will undergo significant training, which will boost the entire first response on the island. But we're kind of just about 8 minutes thereabout to the hour, and then we'll take a break. The phone lines are open as well. If you want to get your calls or comments in before we take the break, we will. But let's go back to the panel here. Training. Will there be a psychiatrist, counselors who are going to be part of the entire program upon completion, or will they be remaining in the program when the training is completed? Because let's be frank, with these frantic calls, with people not necessarily getting calm, we know how people are, we know how humans are, we know how people in St. Kitts and Nevis are. Eventually, maybe a year, 6 months, 2 months, 3 months down the line, somebody may reach that breaking point. Would you guys have psychiatrists, counselors, anybody who will be interacting with these first responders upon completion of the program?
I can speak a little bit to that it is part of the training, emotionally and psychologically. There will be advice, and there will be definitely counsellors recommended, and we will link with Nevis for that to make sure that they do have a resource. But there's also an agency in the US that they could link to as well anonymously, and we will definitely have resources for the dispatchers to be able to discuss any emotional issues they feel they need to deal with following calls. I mean, usually part of the training is to sit down, especially after a mass casualty or some of the more difficult calls, to sit down with the doctors in the hospital and to really go over the calls, not just for future training, but also for the people involved, so that there's no self-blame and that kind of thing. But yes, it's an active part of the training, psychological help for the dispatchers.
Because I've seen, and we know how people are mentally. Let's say, for example, somebody died while you're taking the information or something like that. We tend to blame ourselves for things like that happening. And it's good to see that you guys would have, someone
Absolutely.
or an agency that they can reach out to. Because I was looking at something recently, and someone was blaming themselves because they something didn't, the incident turned out a different way than they were hoping to. So that for me would be a critical aspect of the whole program.
And I can add to that too. We're all human, right? We're all human, thankfully. Some calls are very difficult. I have been on calls in my career that I will carry with me forever. But again, this is part of the training and part of selecting the dispatcher. Dispatchers do have to have a certain skill set and a certain personality to deal with this kind of situation day in and day out.
So Mr. Martin, your agency as well, I know you guys are going to be first responders. I know you guys have been involved in a lot of what happens, especially during hurricanes, fires. You guys would have seen many things, like how we media people, we see many things as well that we report, and psychological assistance is oftentimes overlooked in agencies like the fire service, media personnel, the police force. In terms of this approach, how are you guys going to be dealing with it?
Well, we have a system in place where it's called a debriefing. Sorry. After every call, especially if the call is very major, we normally have our guys come together to talk about it, because that is one of a critical aspect in getting over something. You have to talk about it. And we do that collectively as a group. If we recognize that, hey, this incident was very impacting for a particular officer, then we would always try to reach out to other agencies who actually work within this field of the psychiatrist field, as we might say, someone who lends support in psycho emotional trauma, to really look at this individual and see how best they could walk them through what they experience. For me, I have had a number of experiences in my career, and I could say that anything that basically surrounds a child, especially, having an incident, whether it could be a car accident or a fire-related incident where a house is on fire and you recognize that maybe children might be involved, that always touches me quite deeply. So the gears in terms of how we approach it is even a lot more different. So yes, we do need psychological support in terms of the things that we see, and we see from, I don't even know if I could really say some of the things on air, but we see some real stuff out there. So the support is good for the department, and I'm sure along the other agencies as well, police, the EMTs, etc., they would need some sort of support as well.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. The whole mental and emotional well-being of those first responders. It's also critical. So Ms. Martin Clark, you have the last word for the first hour because we have to break for the midday news. So anything you want to say on this before we take a break?
Well, I would just like to use this forum to say that the Nevis Island administration is very supportive of this initiative. And we want to publicly thank the Four Seasons Homeowners Foundation for its commitment to this project in terms of providing the necessary training, the funding, and the implementation for this project. We thank them very much for that partnership.
All right. Well, thank you. There you had it. Those were our panelists. This was this was the first hour of Inside the News here on WIN FM. We will shortly take a break for the headline news, and then we'll come right back and continue with the discussion here on WIN FM.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com. When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
With the WINNFM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown. Our top stories: autopsy rules 8-year-old boy's cause of death, drowning. Police seize another stash of suspected narcotics in Irish Town. Police report the third illegal firearm seized in a week. Barbados' Prime Minister continues to decry sanctions against Venezuela during discussions on reparations. Guyana passes electronics transaction bill. Internationally, former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has been given a 3-year jail sentence over corruption allegations. Now the details. The police have shared the autopsy report for Jazaniah Carty, the 8-year-old boy from Bullett's Project St. Paul's, concluding that he drowned on July 28, 2023. According to the resident pathologist, Dr. Adrian Nunez, Jazaniah died from mechanical asphyxia, drowning, and submission in pool water. On July 28, 2023, police responded to a report of a suspected drowning of the 8-year-old boy. Upon arrival, Jazaniah Carty was found lying at poolside unresponsive. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. The police have reported the third seizure of suspected narcotics during the period July 29th to August 4th. The Anti-Narcotics Unit of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, during a search of an empty lot in Irish Town, Basseterre on August 4th, 2023, found 2 bottles containing numerous pieces of solid white substances suspected to be cocaine. No suspects were identified or arrests were made in connection with the suspected narcotics. On July 29, 2023, authorities seized 2 transparent plastic bags which contained solid white substances suspected to be cocaine in Prickly Pear Alley, St. Kitts. On August 4th, officers seized more suspected cocaine while searching an empty lot on Herbert Street, Newtown, St. Kitts. No suspects were identified or arrests made in connection with those 2 finds. Investigations into these matters are ongoing. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force continues its appeal to the general public to contact the nearest police station if anyone has any information that could assist with these investigations. Officers of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force found another illegal firearm stashed in the Irishtown area on August 4, 2023. The semi-automatic pistol marks the third illegal firearm found by the Anti-Narcotics Unit, seized in a week. During a joint operation, the police recovered 9.40 rounds of ammunition as well. No suspects were identified or arrests made in connection with the illegal firearms. Officers found another illegal firearm at the Warner Park Cricket Stadium. A search at the Len Harris Cricket Academy's dome interior in Warner Park led police to find one Diamondback P9 9mm semi-automatic pistol and a magazine containing 12 matching rounds of ammunition on August 2, 2023. During a routine search of an abandoned building in the Dorset area, officers found and seized one Kel-Tec P32 pistol on July 29, 2023. No suspects were identified or arrests were made in connection with those illegal firearm finds. Investigations into these matters are ongoing. The police asks anyone with information on these matters to contact their nearest police station. In regional news, Prime Minister Mia Mottley joins other regional leaders who have decried sanctions on Venezuela. Prime Minister Mottley says the sanctions impact Caribbean countries' ability to counter rising fuel prices. Under the past Petro-Caribe deal, member countries could purchase oil from Venezuela at concessionary prices. However, in the face of action by the U.S., if they defy the sanctions in place, the deal no longer works in favor of the Caribbean. The Barbados Prime Minister notes that U.S. company Chevron and EU member countries continue to access this same oil. She lamented the actions, saying it, quote, cannot be okay for some to trade with those who have sanctions and others to be precluded, end quote. During a round-table talk on reparations, Motley suggested that the conversation on reparations must consider issues currently confronting countries, including debt, the impact of the pandemic, and the climate crisis. She says, while noting that monetary compensation is essential, flexible policies are necessary, which is fundamentally what the Bridgetown Initiative is about.
And yes, Barbados in Petro-Caribe 2.0 and Dominican Republic all want to benefit. But we are told, and the Petro-Caribe 2.0 is to give us a 35% discount on oil prices at a time when oil prices have gone through the roof and remain volatile, and with a clear signal from OPEC that the cut in production should lead to further increases. Now, how can it be fair for those who are far and away, to use a good Bajan term, to benefit from that, and those of us who are in the immediate vicinity cannot have regional energy security? You heard about the right for all of the things, as I said in the Mandela lecture last year, that we were told not to do as members of the Global South, became the options of first choice when the crisis hit, whether in the pandemic or the climate crisis. And therefore, our actions must be to solicit. Remember what they tell us, don't give me fish alone. Teach me how to fish. Don't give me money alone. Give me the space to earn my own money too, and to be able to protect and to develop our own people.
Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, says he believes some fundamental approaches need to be taken concerning reparations.
There are three approaches which we can take in dealing with imperialism and hegemony. One is to roll over and play dead. Well, I am not of that school, and we ought not to be of that school. The second is to make practical accommodations. And I'll tell you why we have to make practical accommodations. The shortest distance between 2 points, geometrically, is a straight line. But I can't climb Sofri Mountain in a straight line. So I have to take zigs, I have to take zags, but I'm going to the mountaintop.
Former Jamaican Prime Minister Mr. P.J. Patterson said there needs to be unity of purpose.
We have to have unity of purpose and the execution of a single pursuit by Africa and the Caribbean nations. And this is where Baba comes in, because he's no longer a sitting president, but in fact, his power and his influence in Africa has increased manifold.
Meanwhile, the former Nigerian president wants one of the first issues of reparatory justice to be a shared Emancipation Day for CARICOM and the African Union. Clip.
We need to have a day that the CARICOM and the AU will agree as Emancipation Day. And that day, we know that it is regarded as Emancipation Day. It is important for us. Then we can talk about the past so that it will enlighten our future. We can let our children and those who are coming after us know and learn about what has happened so that we do not forget.
Guyana passes electronics transaction bill. Guyana News Source has that report.
The National Assembly passed the Electronic Communication and Transactions Bill late on Thursday night, with the opposition underscoring the importance of the legislation while expressing some concern relating to the process of authenticating signatures in digital transactions. The legislation is intended to fast-track the implementation of e-government services, while significantly improving the ease of doing business across both the public and private sectors in the country. The bill enables the conclusion of contracts and creation of certain rights and obligations through the electronic medium. In committing the bill to the National Assembly, Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce Anish Waldron said the bill sets the stage for the establishment of a legal framework that is key for commercial transactions in a modern world.
In the field of commerce, Mr. Speaker, this bill will deliver a framework with well-defined rules for the conduct of commercial transactions by electronic means. This framework will aid in delivering consistency and predictability in the business environment that is indispensable for the sustainability of trade and commerce.
The Commerce Minister also said similarly in the public sphere, the bill will provide the means by which transactions can be conducted with public authorities via electronic means.
This will also contribute to the improvement in the business environment. But equally important, it will lead to a radical improvement in the delivery of government services to individuals.
It was noted that the Electronic Communications and Transactions Bill forms part of a slew of legislation that is being put in place as the country prepares for the digital economy. The Access to Information Act, the Interception of Communications Act, the Cybercrimes Act, and the Telecommunications Act are among the other pieces of legislation. APNU AFC Member of Parliament Cathy Hughes was the first on the opposite side of the House to acknowledge that the bill was a timely one.
Mr. Speaker, this bill that we are discussing today is timely, and I cannot overemphasize the importance of the subject matter that we're dealing with. Technology has expanded exponentially, and electronic digital transactions are the norm all over the world. The majority of citizens, businesses, multinational corporations, governments, the nation state, all come into contact with some form of electronic transactions every day nowadays.
However, while underscoring the importance of the legislation, the opposition MP registered a number of concerns, particularly with the process of authenticating the original signatures of persons in digital transactions. Clause 5 of the bill provides for the autonomy of the parties to use or accept electronic communications, electronic signatures, and electronic contracts. However, Mrs. Hughes expressed concern about the falsification of information.
Take, for example, a transport. The original is kept in the registry. We get a certified copy. This bill, and we accept, is necessary, gives the same recognition to the electronic form, and as I said, it's acceptable. But the electronic form can be forged, and therefore, a robust system or process to authenticate the original must be in place. with an electronic or digital watermark may be.
The legislation also empowers the Minister of Commerce to designate or establish an authority to be the certifying agency, which will be responsible for the regulation, registration, and accreditation of electronic security providers. But MP Hughes is of the view that the authority should be independent and not under the supervision of the minister. She told the House that a better document could be developed, were it to be sent to the Parliamentary Select Committee to address gaps in the legislation. The government, however, went ahead with the debate and used its majority in the House to pass the new legislation.
We now bring you these international reports.
Today, Imran Khan, Pakistan's former Prime Minister, has been arrested after being sentenced to 3 years in prison. His team say that they will be filing an appeal against the ruling. Now, the judge found him guilty of failing to declare money that he'd earned from selling state gifts. As the decision was announced in Islamabad, a crowd, including some prosecuting lawyers, began chanting Imran Khan as a thief outside of the court. Multiple cases have been filed against Mr. Khan in the last 16 months. In May of this year, he was detained for not appearing at court as requested, but was subsequently released after the arrest was declared illegal. Well, since then, his party has been under intense pressure from authorities, with many senior officials leaving and thousands of supporters being arrested, accused of being involved in the protests that followed Imran Khan's arrest. The Pakistan government will be dissolving on August the 9th, and a caretaker government will take over in the run-up to the elections. No date has been set for those elections, although constitutionally they need to take place by early November. Let's get the latest on this. Our Pakistan correspondent Caroline Davis is outside of the court in Islamabad. Caroline, first off, I wonder if you could just confirm or update the details that I just read out there.
Yes, Lucretia, and we have also, of course, had confirmation that Imran Khan has been arrested. He was at his home, Zaman Park in Lahore. We've seen images from our teams there of the police arriving, and we've seen of the vans and cars leaving Zaman Park with Mr. Khan. It is not entirely clear at the moment where he will be taken to next, but we were obviously anticipating this because we heard from the judge who found him guilty in this Toshakana case. This is about gifts, state gifts that he had received during his time in office that he had then sold, and the court found him guilty of not declaring that money. The judge found him guilty, said that he was finding him, that he would be in jail for 3 years, and then also directed the Islamabad police to arrest him immediately. We then heard within the space of 10-15 minutes or so that he had indeed been arrested in Lahore. As I say, it's not entirely clear where he will be taken to. His team here said to us that they didn't expect him to resist arrest, that they were planning to appeal, but of course it's Saturday and the courts are not currently open, and so they can't lodge those appeals until Monday, which of course leaves us with the weekend question about exactly what will happen next in Pakistan. What will be the reaction to Imran Khan's arrest? As you mentioned, on the 9th of May, he was previously arrested, and we did see a large amount of discontent across Pakistan in reaction to that arrest. We saw military and intelligence buildings, we saw military buildings being targeted. Now, that is particularly surprising here in Pakistan. That is something that Pakistan has not really seen during the course of its history, for the military to be directly targeted. And as a result, we saw a large amount of crackdown afterwards on Imran Khan and his party. Imran Khan, as you say, was released after they found that the arrest against him back then in May had been illegal, and he has since then been free. But at the same time, many of his party have left the party, many of his senior leadership, and many of his supporters have also been arrested and imprisoned because of their alleged involvement in these protests that happened after the 9th of May. So the question next, of course, is how does Pakistan react now? Has that crackdown stopped people from wanting to come out onto the streets? Will we see a similar sort of reaction, or will we not see a similar sort of reaction? You mentioned as well that the Pakistan government, Pakistan Parliament is due to dissolve next week on the 9th of August, and that means that they will hand over to a caretaker government who will be in power until the elections. This is all taking place in the backdrop of the elections. This is why it is such a contentious and difficult time. We're waiting to see what the reaction in Pakistan will be to Mr. Khan's arrest.
Caroline Davis, thank you very much for that. For now, we're going to stay with the story, and joining me now is Munib Farouk, who is a journalist for the Pakistani Urdu language news channel locally. Samart TV, thank you very much for joining us, Munib. First off, how has this news been received?
Well, frankly, it was something which was expected, and it hasn't come as a surprise because this case has been going on for quite a while now, and it was highly likely that Imran Khan is going to get convicted in this case, and the response from his legal team was quite weak. There was apparently no defense, and it's a fact. It's a fact that's floating on the surface. If you look at the documents, if you go through the documents, yes, Imran Khan did get the gifts from the state depository. It was legal, yes, to that extent, but then he sold them and did not declare the amount in his nomination papers and different papers that he was supposed to do that before the Election Commission of Pakistan. So obviously that gave a big setback to the former Prime Minister. And ever since the case started, his lawyers were only focused on the technical point. And particularly after 9th of May, things have not been going good at all for Pakistan's Justice Party, Imran Khan's party, and things have been quite murkier with every passing day.
What do you make of the timing then? Because obviously, as we just heard there, our correspondent reporting outside of the court in Islamabad saying that, you know, we've got the backdrop of those elections coming up soon. Has that played in possibly the decision for this to be carried out now?
Well, yes, timing is of the essence, and there was a lot of discussion over it. People were quite apprehensive. Even Imran Khan was apprehensive. He did see it coming, but yes, there was a likelihood that this may happen once the caretaker government would come in and take the charge. But yes, it has happened today, and somehow the trial was done hurriedly, and I cannot say with guarantee, nobody can give a watertight guarantee that Imran Khan was given a right to fair trial according to the constitution. But yes, it was quite likely that Imran Khan is going to get convicted due to this case, and this means that he is now disqualified to become a member of the parliament for the next 5 years by virtue of this decision. So this means that unless he gets a relief from the High Court, which his lawyers are planning to go to, his conviction will stand, his disqualification will stand, and then it appears to be quite an uphill task for him.
Okay, so in terms of his political future, it's not looking good. What about the future of his party?
Well, ever since the incidents of 9th May, I mean, his party workers have been running amok. His top-tier leadership has either deserted the party or they've been made to leave the party. The workers are in disarray. Most of them are in hiding. People are scared to come on the streets because of the incidents that took place on 9th of May. It's considered as 9/11 for Pakistan. And this is something which is out of the ordinary. The military installations were attacked. They were burned down. They were vandalized. State institutions were attacked. So this is something which was completely unheard of. There have been instances in the past where top political leaders have been ousted by the courts or through illegal or unconstitutional ways, but nobody ever did this. But this time, when Imran Khan got arrested on 9th of May, his party workers attacked the military installations just because now, and ever since that time, he has been defending the actions of his political party workers. That somehow sent a lot of people over the edge, that instead of, condemning them or, they're telling the people that it was not a good idea to attack the military installations, he was somehow trying to defend it. So that's somehow, I think, the straw that finally broke the camel's back.
Munib Farouk, thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you.
Countries from the West African regional body ECOWAS say they've now agreed on a plan for a possible military intervention in Niger if the military leaders who seize power there don't restore the country's president for the deadline. The deadline is Sunday. Well, this potential military intervention could have huge regional repercussions. Our reporter Pierre-Antoine Denis has more from the newsroom.
It is absolutely no understatement to say that the next few days in Niger are going to be absolutely crucial, not only for the country but the region as a whole. Now, all we know so far about this intervention is that it will be led normally by Nigerian troops. And there is a clear reason for that. Have a listen.
All the elements that would go into any eventual intervention have been worked out here and being refined. But ECOWAS is not going to tell the coup plotters when and where we are going to strike. That is an operational decision that will be taken by the heads of state.
Should it happen, this would be the 7th military operation led by ECOWAS since its foundation in 1990. The last time out was in 2017 in the Gambia to resolve a post-election crisis. But what's very interesting here is that since 2020, the whole of the Sahel region has been hit by different coups in countries like Burkina Faso or Mali. But Niger is the only case in which ECOWAS has talked about a potential military intervention. It drew plans for it. And the reason for that, among others, is the well-being of Niger's president, Mohamed Bazoum, who openly said that he is being taken hostage by Colonel Chani, the leader of the junta in Niger. And that is a line that must not be crossed for ECOWAS. But can such an intervention have important consequences for the whole region? Well, according to these two men, surely, because Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of Burkina Faso, and Assimi Goïta, the leader of Mali, have said that should there be an intervention in Niger, they would not only not support the intervention, but would send troops to Niger to defend the junta against the ECOWAS military intervention. That, in effect, would draw a whole region into a full-out war while they are already battling Islamist insurgency in the region.
Former President Donald Trump appeared a day after his arraignment in Washington, D.C., facing charges of subverting the 2020 election, and told his supporters in Alabama that his legal troubles wouldn't hinder his 2024 campaign.
Every time they file an indictment, we go way up in the polls. We need one more indictment to close out this election. One more indictment, and this election is closed out. Nobody has even a chance.
Speaking at a Republican dinner, Trump called the charges outlined in his indictment an act of desperation by the Biden administration.
The fake charges put forth in their sham indictment are an outrageous criminalization of political speech. That's all it is. You make a statement, oh, we have to indict him because he said we were dishonest. Let's indict him. They're trying to make it illegal to question the results of a bad election. It was a very bad election. Everybody knows that.
The former president faces 4 felonies over his efforts to undo his 2020 election loss to Biden, including conspiracy to defraud the U.S., to deprive citizens of their voting rights, and to obstruct an official proceeding. The most serious charge carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. He pleaded not guilty to the charges brought by Special Counsel Jack Smith, who he called on Friday
the deranged, sick person.
Then on Friday, Trump pleaded not guilty to 3 new charges relating to his handling of U.S. classified documents after he left the White House in 2021. The new charges against Trump in the documents case include an additional count for unlawful retention of national defense information and 2 more counts of obstruction of justice. U.S. prosecutors on Friday also made a filing flagging a threatening social media post from Donald Trump. The former president wrote, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you," on his Truth Social site, which prosecutors argued it suggests he might intimidate witnesses by improperly disclosing evidence. Trump's other legal woes include charges in the state of New York over hush money payments to a porn star and an ongoing investigation in Georgia on whether he illegally interfered with the state's 2020 election.
You were listening to the Midday News on WINNFM 98.9. The headlines: Autopsy rules 8-year-old boy's cause of death, drowning. Police seize another stash of suspected narcotics in Irish Town. Police report the third illegal firearm seized in a week. Barbados' Prime Minister continues to decry sanctions against Venezuela during discussions on reparations. Guyana passes electronics transaction bill. Internationally, former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan has been given a 3-year jail sentence over corruption allegations. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
My brothers and sisters of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, in the tradition of human experience, we celebrate important landmarks such as birthdays and anniversaries and use them to take stock of where we are and where we are heading. It is a way of giving thanks, of connecting with the people we hold dear, celebrating ourselves, our achievements, our aspirations, our shared values, and of honoring our traditions. Today marks the 1-year anniversary of our St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party's administration, and we are reminded of all the reasons for celebration. I pause today, therefore, on behalf of this historic party, that it is my honor to lead, a party which has contributed tremendously to the lives and well-being of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I particularly want to express gratitude to our citizens and residents for the continued cooperation and commitment to working with your government over the last year towards a better St. Kitts and Nevis for the good that we can do. Thank you to all the citizens and friends of our country at home and abroad who are making this journey with us. The people of this country can feel an immense sense of pride and gratitude for the incredible progress which has been made in the last year. We are people united in our vision to transform this nation into a sustainable island state, a beacon of resilience and progress in the face of global challenges, a flagship country in the OECS and in the Caribbean, and a towering model among small island developing states. Since the election of August 5, 2022, my colleagues and I set out to transform St. Kitts and Nevis into a sustainable island state, built on 7 pillars of change, and to build the resilience which will protect our country and people from shocks of all types. On this journey, we have tackled many obstacles. We have transformed threats into opportunities. We converted weaknesses into strengths, and we turned tragedies into triumphs. Against this backdrop, it is therefore my duty, honor, and absolute pleasure to report what your government has been doing for you. In the first quarter of this year, the economy rebounded significantly with growth in multiple sectors such as tourism, agriculture, financial services, and the strengthening of the Citizenship by Investment program. We saw surpluses of over 50%, with more than 2,500 jobs being created. The month of June was historic for inland revenue, where the highest ever tax collection was registered despite no new taxes, no increase in existing taxes, nor the restoration of reduced tax rates. Additionally, the Development Bank was able to provide over 300 small business loans. This demonstrates that the foundation of the economy is sound, and we are on track to full economic recovery as we battle through this difficult and challenging post-COVID period, complicated by the existential threat of climate change, conflict and disruptions in global supply chains, and lack of access to concessionary loans from mainstream international financial institutions. Despite all of these challenges, we are on track to full economic recovery by the end of 2023. Further, we will receive a study on revenue sharing between St. Kitts and Nevis shortly, and it is our intention to create a sovereign wealth fund to safeguard our financial future. On taking office last August, we immediately removed all COVID-19 related health and travel restrictions based on scientific data, allowing our nation to reopen and welcome thousands of our own people and visitors alike. Tourism has since witnessed a remarkable resurgence, further boosted by the successful launch of the Venture Deeper Tourism Brand campaign, attracting more than 800,000 long-stay visitors and cruise passengers to our shores in the past year. This significant influx of visitors highlights the nation's growing popularity as a premier destination for cruise tourism. Notably, we welcome the inaugural visit of the world's largest cruise liner, at that time the Wonder of the Seas, and the addition of Inter-Caribbean Airlines, JetBlue, and Caribbean Airlines to our air transport roster, expanding travel options and further stimulating economic growth. This created greater economic activity for all the persons and sectors that rely on tourism. Ease the cost of living for our citizens, we extended the full discounted VAT food day packages, not just during Christmas, but to 3 times per year, adding Easter and summer to the existing Christmas bonanza. Additionally, we implemented a duty-free allowance for barrels and containers of foodstuff up to 400 pounds in weight, benefiting travelers and non-commercial importers with a duty-free allowance of EC $540 or US $200 off the cost, insurance, and freight value of goods. Additionally, we have subsidized the cost of fuel significantly, the cost of electricity to the tune of $9 million per month. Overall, we are spending over $250 million per year in an effort to ease the burden on our people. At the heart of our vision for a sustainable island state is the well-being of our people. We have made significant investments in healthcare, including preparations for the construction of a modern hospital, comprehensive life support system training for over 250 healthcare workers, as well as ensuring that the Ministry of Health is equipped with a full cadre of administrative and technical officers. We have doubled the number of internists and biomedical engineers at our General Hospital. A resident neurologist has been added for the first time in our history, increased our elderly care assistance by over 50%, added 15 dialysis machines to our fleet, and added over 3 dozen pieces of critical medical equipment to JNF General Hospital wards. Additionally, we have purchased new equipment for the ophthalmology lab, reopening the avenue for persons to receive much-needed eye care. Surgeries started on May 23rd, and a total of 126 eye surgeries have been successfully completed to date at the ophthalmology lab or the eye clinic at the JNF General Hospital. The wait time has also been significantly reduced from months to 2 to 3 weeks. This is remarkable progress. These investments and more have led to improved healthcare services for our people. I have also been particularly pleased with the number of children's lives we have saved over the past year through the Ministry of Health's Children Medical Assistance Program. Our financial assistance program has extended a lifeline to over 30 children in need of medical treatment overseas. Previously, parents had to depend on GoFundMe campaigns and sponsorships to give their children a chance at life. One can imagine how many of these children died due to a lack of care, mainly affecting the poorest among us. Protecting our future by protecting our youth is of utmost importance. I must also update that the MRI procurement process is fully underway. By its very definition, a sustainable island state means providing every citizen with a safe and comfortable home. Our Climate Smart Home initiative has accomplished just that and will deliver over 2,000 modern and energy-efficient homes to families. Minister of Housing, the Honorable Jeffrey Hanley, and I concluded a site walkthrough for the NHC Housing Project model homes at Connery, situated directly across from the children's playground, as well as at Taylor's yesterday. These homes will be equipped with the cutting-edge technology to reduce their carbon footprint, demonstrating our commitment to environmental responsibility and climate adaptation. To emphasize our provision for the most vulnerable among us, we have revamped the Poverty Alleviation Program, supporting over 5,300 households. During these very challenging times, to the tune of over $30 million per year, we have empowered our youth and created increased opportunities for them through the Girls Empowerment Program and the Elevate Program, just to mention a few. These pave the way for future leaders who will champion sustainability and social equity. The path to a sustainable island state must include the active engagement of our youth. By including qualified young persons under the age of 35 in national committees and statutory bodies, we have been more inclusive as a government, giving our young people a greater say in national affairs and laying the groundwork for a future generation of leaders who will shape a more sustainable future. The orange economy, or creative economy, has thrived through initiatives such as Mwent TV's reality show, Let's Do This. These platforms showcase our artistic talents while inspiring creativity and innovation. Our successful hosting of the CPL T20, the ongoing CONCACAF Caribbean Club Shield, Sugar Mass 51, the 25th edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival, and similar cultural activities have catalyzed significant contributions to our economy while focusing on the flourishing of our national culture and heritage. Furthermore, we recently witnessed the spectacular launch of the first ever dedicated government department of the creative economy, along with the assignment of cultural and musical ambassadors. A sustainable island state requires responsible stewardship of food resources and preservation of the environment. It is in this context we have taken significant steps towards banning single-use plastics in the next year. Even as our plastic recycling initiatives like No Plastic Bag Mondays are ongoing, we have taken proactive steps to conserve water resources while simultaneously moving to boost agricultural production and positively impact food and nutrition security. New wells for water are being explored, and we have struck water in Cayon. Exciting news for the residents of Cayon and surrounding communities. In addition, desalination plants have been approved for construction in the short term. Upgrades to the Old Road and Basta Fisheries Complex have enhanced the sustainability of our fishing industry while supporting local fisherfolk. The decriminalization of marijuana has opened avenues for a medical marijuana industry that will be sustainable and become a source of jobs and foreign exchange earnings for nationals. The launch of the 25 by 25 Agricultural Initiative, where we seek to reduce our food imports by 25% by 2025, is a significant part of our food security strategy. Energy is at the cornerstone of building a sustainable island state. To this end, we are committed to expanding our renewable energy sources to both decrease the cost of energy to our people and to decrease our dependence on fossil fuel. Thus, the federal government is in collaboration with the NIA and has approached the CDB for a grant loan of $17 million to explore geothermal energy on Nevis, a historic step. Moreover, we have negotiated a new solar energy plan to the benefit of our people. Additionally, we are now ready to put out RFPs to invite investments in other renewable energy sources while discussing with Saudi Arabia to invest in this sector. We have also signed MOUs with El Sredi of the African Bank for the expansion of our renewable energy sources. Energy as a sector must be developed to offset the unsustained subsidizing of electricity to the tune of $9 million per month. This new sector has the potential of providing hundreds of new jobs and becoming an additional revenue stream. This will ensure that the poorest among us will continue to be protected. Education is the cornerstone of national progress, sustainability, and upward mobility for our people. Your government has slashed student loan interest rates by nearly half to now 5%, enabling thousands of students to pursue higher education without undue financial strain. The Graduate Finance Project has empowered our graduates to build their future with a $15,000 credit for loan repayments. Additionally, CFB College is now tuition-free. This makes education from preschool to college accessible to even the poorest among us, furthering the dream of our first national hero, Robert Llewellyn Gratiot. We are dedicated to providing specialized care to every child, including those with special needs and those who learn differently. The identification of a suitable location at the site of the former Estridge Primary School for standalone center for special education and autism spectrum services will ensure that no child is left behind and that all of our children are able to achieve their full potential. Security is at the foundation of achieving a sustainable island state. To this end, your government has invested heavily in the national security apparatus. We have restarted police training with over 30 new recruits. We started the K9 unit and invested in upgraded CCTVs. We have also expanded cooperation with the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, and retained 2 experienced security experts who are citizens as advisors. The approach of confronting crime and violence from a public health perspective and the launching of the new Elevate program are new and innovative modalities in addressing the scourge of crime and violence that is affecting the entire Caribbean. Your government, as St. Kitts and Nevis strives to become a sustainable island state, we must anchor our governance in integrity, transparency, and accountability. Your government has maintained a robust legislative agenda and has passed over 20 bills in our parliament over the last year. We are extremely proud to amend the Domestic Violence Act so that women and men who are victims of domestic violence have easier access to protection orders. The Anti-Corruption Act empowers our citizens to root out corruption, ensuring that our government remains focused on the greater good. Freedom of information and integrity in public life legislation established an information rights unit promoting transparency and accessibility. Adequate resourcing of Public Accounts Committee guarantees that your government accounts to taxpayers for every cent spent. This piece of legislation is historic. The passing of the Rastafari Rights Recognition Bill 2023 is another major historic accomplishment for our federation, making St. Kitts and Nevis the first in the OACS to bring into compliance the Constitution, the laws regarding Rastafarians, allowing them to freely exercise their religious and educational practices. Fellow citizens and residents, our exciting, rewarding journey toward a sustainable island state has only just begun. As we reflect on just a few of the past year's achievements, let us renew our commitment to building a greener, more prosperous, more just and inclusive nation for generations to come. Let us nurture the flame of national pride and togetherness. Let us work together to steer our country towards a future of hope and resilience. Fellow citizens and residents, the state of our federation is strong. I would like to thank the members of the Cabinet A team for their diligence and hard work over the past year on behalf of you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I could not have done it alone. I therefore name the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, the Honorable Converse Maynard, the Honorable Garth Wilkin, the Honorable Marsha Henderson, the Honorable Samuel Duggins, the Honorable Senator Dr. Joel Clark, the Honorable Senator Iselin Phillip, and to name the ambassadors who have lent their support, Ambassador His Excellency Kenneth Douglas and Ambassador His Excellency Leon Knapp. Your government give you thanks for your unwavering support, and I ask you to hold steadfastly to this vision of our nation, which will define our place in the Caribbean and the world and guarantee us sustainable prosperity. May God bless St. Kitts and Nevis and all her people as we create and exemplify a shining example of a sustainable island state.
Found the sound. 98.9 WIN FM.
You ever hear earthquake Earthquake call and say, hello, Miss Lee, yes, it's me, Earthquake, I come in Tuesday around 10. No, sir. Earthquake does arrive unannounced, and when it come, it shake all sense and sensibility out of we. Remain calm, stay inside, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Once the shaking starts, you know it's earthquake. Make a quick move to a safe place. Don't run to the door, we are in the exit. Stairs might block up or full of people. Elevator, avoid that, because you might get in and poof, power gone, and you're stuck in that box without ear. Take cover under a strong table or a bed, or crouch against an inside wall or in a corner, and cover your face and your head with your arms. Remember, DCH, drop, cover, hold on. Glass windows and doors, outside walls and doors in an earthquake, bad news. Take care yourself. Most injuries during earthquakes happen when something drop and hit people entering or exiting a building. Last thing, nobody run outside and ask, you feel it, you feel it? Remain calm, stay indoors until all the shaking stop, and do the DCH, drop, cover, hold on.
This message is sponsored by the Australian Government, AusAid, and produced by NEMA in collaboration with WINNFM.
People make the world go round.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Enjoy the convenience of getting all your documents in one place. At the TDC Copy and Print Center on 4th Street in Basse-Terre, we do just that. We offer document formatting, graphic design, and copy and print services. Our team of professionals truly understand all your needs, whether it be administrative, professional, academic, or personal. You bring it, we deliver it with quality every time. Visit the TDC Copy and Print Center today in the TDC Mall on 4th Street in Basse-Terre, or call 465-2511. Your copy and print specialists are waiting to serve you.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News. Yes, we were slightly delayed. The PM was giving a national address there. So we're back now and we're continuing the discussion on the first responder system that's going to be implemented in Nevis. A bit of training has already started, and for the first hour we discussed that, and the sense that I'm getting from our three guests that we had on for the first hour, but now we have two of them, is that this system is really going to enhance the health care in St. Kitts and Nevis, from the first call to treatment, and that's very uplifting to hear that, and it's a good reassurance. And as we continue the discussion, in terms of when someone calls, is it going to be recorded? What sort of feedback mechanism would be in place, if, let's say, Mr. Abel, for example, he has a complaint against one of the first responders or one of those within the operations center. What sort of feedback we're going to get?
We are presently designing what's called maybe a backup system. We'll be requiring the dispatchers to do a digital record of the call, which will go into maybe something like an iCloud. I don't know the details of the system, but I know there will be a recording system in place so that we can do quality control, and we can especially look back on a difficult situation like that and look at who was involved.
So in terms of, and I'm guessing this might come from a legislation perspective, let's say a complaint was made to the dispatcher. Would the police be able to access that information if, let's say, the complaint was made against John Doe, or let's say a case of domestic violence that was reported to the first responder, and that sort of mechanism, would the information, would the audio recording or video be shared with the police?
I think that would be up to local government. I don't know what the laws here are as a, with regards to that. So yeah, it would be a legislator kind of issue, I believe. But I know in the US, they would have to get special documents from a district attorney, for example, to get access to those records. So I'm not really so sure what the protocols and procedure would be here.
Probably the same thing.
Yeah.
And in terms of data and the breakdown of that data, how's that going to be done in terms of calls, assistance, the whole apparatus of it?
Again, that's something that we're working on, and the IT team will be much more knowledgeable than I am about it. But it is something that will be achieved as far as recording and listing types of calls, amount of calls, so that data can be recorded and used to help improve the system.
In terms of what's the long term, the medium and long term goal of this whole first responders program, and at what point would you say you do a review to say that you're achieving your success?
Well, I think that what we want to achieve now and long term is a quick response with the right resources to that quick response. I think that we want to improve always the response time and also the resources. I'm sorry, I missed the second part of the question. What was the second part?
Well, in terms of success, how do you know when you're achieving your overall goal? At what point?
I think that's something that the data will show, but it's also saving lives. Getting to a call quickly, communication and training are key in saving lives in the first few minutes.
And then I think you could gauge it as well as to, let's say a call comes in, then you know that the call should have how much ever responding agencies, and you look to see, well, how much agencies actually turn out to that call. That would be a good indicator. If one unit shows up, then you say, hey, it still needs a bit of work in this area. But if all the appropriate units show up, then hey, we're heading in the right direction.
So there will be periodic reviews of how the system is operating?
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a brand new system. It's brand new to everyone. So there will be obviously adjustments and adaptations, but yes, there'll be constant review and improvement.
Okay, so with all that being said, I know there will be some challenges up front, right? In terms of the short term, let's say it's rolled out December. When do you, in the short term, would gauge yourself to give yourself a grade? Would it be the first quarter, let's say next year, within a 3-month period, a 4-month, a half-year period, in terms of saying that, yes, we are achieving what we set out to achieve?
I don't know as far as a time plan goes. I couldn't time stamp it. But personally, from my point of view, it would be, the first successful save to me would be a sign of success for the system. I think that it will show itself really quickly. It will show itself really, because the response time will be so much quicker, and the communication between the agencies will be so much more efficient. I think you're going to see the end result pretty quickly to be a good one.
Okay, and in terms of the program itself, we know a call is being made now to the first responders. What's the time frame as a paramedic? What's the time frame should a first responder? And I'm guessing this question would be from a larger territory's perspective, but we have to bring it down to a small territory or a small island like Nevis. What is the time frame perspective of when a call is made to when a first responder is expected to be on scene?
It would be minutes. It would be minutes within minutes in Nevis, definitely, absolutely. We're looking at a 10-minute maximum response by one agency to an emergency, at least. It's completely feasible.
If I may add to this though, some things would have to be considered, because remember, there is one hospital, ambulance base, dealing with the whole island. So let's say the call is generated in Newcastle, for example, then that might have a slightly different time frame than if the call is localized in town. And the same thing for the fire services right now is just the Charlestown Fire Station servicing the whole island. So, and then take into consideration the activities that might be taking place. Now we have a festive season right now in Nevis, which is Culturama, where the streets might be heavily jammed, etc. So things like that would play on your response time.
Yeah, and there would be a strategy in place for that too. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, as part of the training.
But the question that also then begs a question in terms of manpower, in terms of this whole operations, in terms of you're making a really great investment in this program, in this initiative, but then it's wanting to make the investment, but you also have to get the buy-in from the local first responders. And one of the challenges that we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis is manpower, the capacity to be able to. So let's say, for example, a call comes in that there's a major fire or whatever it is, right? Let's use the fire service, for example. A call goes into the fire service, but then they on scene dealing with that, and then something else happens somewhere, right? So then, it whittles down the time frame. So then it comes back to capacity to deal with multiple instances of first responders being needed. So in terms of all this, with this rollout, is that something that you guys are discussing and recommending to the authorities in terms of the approach to dealing with multiple hazards and instances?
Absolutely. Like I said, we've been doing research for 4 years on this project. So we've looked at all of these aspects of manpower and capacity, and that's why we started doing the emergency responder training, so that everyone, there'll be so many trained emergency responders within each agency that can adapt to a mass casualty. And also training for mass casualty with all of the agencies is very important, especially with the dispatch system. And the dispatch system will be able to link the communication and help to find that one responder to help that, that situation or that one agency that's available if the fire crew are busy on one emergency. And also they're trained in triage and what is critical, looking at what is critical and what is needed, when it is needed, and where is the most important place for that fire truck to be. Could we leave 2 police officers there? Could we send police or disaster managers to go and pick up two fire officers to help with an emergency on a boat, for example? Could we get Coast Guard? So the key is to link the training with the communication. Absolutely.
And it boils down to building resilience. And Nevis is famous for that, I must add. When it comes to building capacity within the country, Nevis.
Well, you see, and that's what I was getting at, because it's one thing to train and have first responders, but what will happen if you don't have a lot of those first responders? Especially, let's say, for example, now, we're in the hurricane season, for example. And I know this is central to Nevis. Let's say something happens one location, and then somebody else calls in and stuff like that. For me, when I'm just thinking out here, is that it will then defeat the purpose if you have multiple instances of first responders being needed. So I'm guessing from a fire service perspective, you could probably speak to that in terms of manpower and being able to deal with multiple instances of first responders getting calls.
All right. So in terms of first responder doesn't necessarily have to be fire or police. Now is the person that shows up with that training that is required, and you could help me out with this. With some of the training programs that we did, it wasn't just all about fire and police. We had CERT members within the community who are trained towards in any situation. They can be called upon to deal with a community emergency response team. We had persons from the Four Seasons security force being a part of that training. So like I say, it's building resilience, not just for the emergency response units, fire, police, the EMTs, but they have widened that scope.
And that is good to learn that, you know, Nevis, for example, is building resilience, and I'm guessing officials on Syncus will seek to do the same. But in terms of making this something of a career, is this something that you see people actually want to do? I know it's this fairly young initiative, but do you see that this is something that people will, you know, want to actually get into? You know, you're going to the schools, you tell them that this is a career path, that this is something that you can consider, you know, that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, I can speak from my personal experience with training emergency response and being on the island. Everyone that I've trained has been very enthusiastic, very motivated, very interested. I've seen interest, you know, in thinking about this as a career already, a lot of interest. I don't know about high schools, but I think it's definitely a good opportunity to go into the schools and talk about, you know, public education as far as dispatcher. What is a dispatcher? And, you know, how could you become one? But, yeah, I've seen a lot of very, very interested people, you know, that we've trained together, Tim and I, in the program.
I think go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say there are programs that geared towards school children, high schoolers, in terms of getting them into that community emergency response mechanism. So there are training out there for them.
I think what this program underscores, and is what my colleague here was saying, we have to be our brother's keepers in terms of, learning, being first responders, because people might be hearing this and think you have to be that big, glamorous dispatcher, medic, or whatever it is. But just being a first responder, somebody fall, you dare, you wrap their feet, whatever it is. Those simple things, underscores that we are all first responders, but this is on a much larger scale that we're talking about here. But I think I would say the Caribbean, but in St. Kitts and Nevis, we don't pay much attention to being first responders to anything, right? And I think what both of you would have underscored here is that this is a stepping stone in terms of us building the resilience that we need in terms of whatever happens. Because I can remember recently, Dr. Martin was speaking when he had a media engagement. He was talking about first responders being protected, areas being sterilized, and all of that. So what you're basically saying here right now is there's a cross collaboration between all agencies, but it's just this one centralized location that will do the bulk of the work in terms of getting people on the scene.
Coordinating.
Exactly. Absolutely.
To save lives in the short term. But what more can we expect out of this? Because I know I asked you long-term goals, the short-term goals, the medium-term, but what more can we expect from this program?
Well, I think more public education, and I think we are actively involved with training within the hospital too, as far as emergency response goes. But really, we really want to help educate the public as far as, you know, this is what we do when we stop bleeding. You know, this is what we do in cardiac arrest, and really just to promote confidence within the agencies working together. Our ultimate goal is to get everyone to respond as, you know, in a one-tier response. So yes, I mean that's what we can expect. Everyone responding together and working together on scene. It isn't just one fire scene, one crime scene, just for the nurses, just for the EMTs. We all, you know, it's for all agencies to collaborate and work together.
What sort of commitment, I didn't know the PS was on, what sort of commitment that you would have received from the government of Nevis, the local government there, in terms of possibly expanding this? I know you're going to be working from the CCTV center over there, but in terms of commitment to making this sustainable and a long-term program, not something that's going to happen today, but in 2 years we saw the same zest and zeal that we had at the start. It's no longer there.
Well, we have entered into a contract with the government. Again, you know, this has been 4 years in the making. We've worked very closely with the Nevis Island administration, and we have a plan in place with the government, and they are fully committed into supporting this and maintaining this program.
And what sort of commitment we get from the fire service? I mean, the police is not here, you know, because I would have thrown it out to them as well.
Well, from the fire services standpoint, we have always been committed to serve the general public. So this new venture into bringing on stream a better dispatch system on a whole is no different. We are committed to providing service.
And if, let's say, and I think this a bit of it was touched on in the first hour, let's say if the government and St. Kitts decides, hey, I love what I'm hearing that's happening on Nevis. How are you guys committed to actually making it work over here? Are you going to piggyback on much of the infrastructure that's already on Nevis, or you're going to be doing a whole different framework for St. Kitts?
That's an interesting question. We that's something we could look into in the future. And from our IT experts, I don't think it would be an issue to piggyback, but that's not something I can comment to. I don't have the technical knowledge to know what exactly is in place in St. Kitts right now. But I do know that we are working with an excellent team of experts, IT experts, that we're more than happy to come in and help St. Kitts and look at their system.
Okay, well, I think we basically touched most of what we wanted to get discussed here today. And you guys have any final comments that you want to share with the public? Because apparently nobody really is calling the phone lines. You know, it's open, but we didn't get any calls from the public today. So, any comments before we wrap?
Well, from my point, now it's a new system that's going to be put in place. Persons would be curious as to, you know, how the system operates, how it works. We just want to encourage the general public, you know, to desist from getting the urge to make any prank calls. We take all calls coming into centers like these to be very serious, and we don't want anyone to go there making prank calls, having the emergency response units going places where they're not needed. That resource could have been utilized elsewhere where someone is really in need. So that is one thing we want to discourage the public to do, you know, making these prank calls.
And I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. It's a very exciting project, and I have had the absolute pleasure of meeting some amazing fire officers, police officers, doctors, nurses, disaster management, you name it. And I am I'm very proud of the of everything they've achieved training-wise, and I think that the system is definitely going to be unique to Nevis, and I'm very successful. Thank you.
But just before you go, though, Timothy, because there was a question that I had written down here, and you touched on it in your rap. But in terms of prank calls, what are you guys going to do to dissuade people from actually doing that, especially kids?
Well, that would be on the last side of things. I'm sure things will be put in place to have persons, where there is some penalties, of course. So, it's just to see what those penalties would be.
Well, thank you both for joining us on the program today. It was good having you to discuss this initiative, which sounds like a really good idea, and I would love to see it succeed, and I know it will. I hope the authorities would reach out to the Four Seasons Foundation to actually be able to have some of it transferred here in St. Kitts as well, because I think we need to streamline our approaches to dealing with first responders and first response to whatever scene or incident would have happened. And I think this is a really good approach, and it was good having both of you here today to give your insight in terms of this project.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Well, there you had it. That was Inside the News for today. As we say here, we go deeper in terms of the news to see what exactly made the news, and this is an interesting project. We like to go beyond the topic and get people to understand the importance of why something like this benefits them, and the topic of discussion today was the First Responders Initiative on Nevis. Well, it's football season here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have the Caribbean Club Shield Tournament, which is a Caribbean Club tournament here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I would recommend each and every one of you go out and enjoy it. St. Paul's are seeking to rebound from their 2-0 defeat on Thursday evening. So do go out and enjoy the games around the island, both Warner Park and the Football Association's Technical Center in St. Peter's. And there's also the Culturama Food Fair on Nevis. Yes, folks, there's a lot going on in the Federation. And within all of that, do stay hydrated because it's crazy hot outside. Yes, it's crazy hot outside, yeah. You could make saltfish in this weather. But do enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
So who you left the kids with tonight?
Nobody. They're big enough to take care of themselves.
Girl, you mad? Junior only 7 years old, and suppose something happened to the baby while you're out here?
My mother was leaving me home by myself since I'm 5. He can handle it. Nothing gonna happen.
This don't feel right. Call and check on them.
Look, I work hard all week. I deserve this break. Besides, they're good. Hello?
Sandra,
Leaving underage children at home by themselves is child neglect. Need support?